let's review what we did on Tuesday. So I've gone through and outlined the different zones of the face, what we were talking about, just so we can all be aware, because I've forgotten, I'm old. What's the first most important zone of the face? The eye. Louder! Eye mask. I'm old and I've got hard of hearing. I've got hard of hearing? What? What's the second most important zone?
Bandit mask.
The bandit mask. Why is the eye mask and the bandit mask so important? And why the eye mask most of all? It's not necessarily a technical question, it's just kind of like a... Yeah, generally when you're looking at characters, you're going to be looking at the face and generally the eyes most of all. And around the eyes, you've got certain bits of information that the brain likes to make sense of, and if it doesn't make sense, if there's kind of like weird little shapes or whatever, if it doesn't animate properly, it's going to throw off. It's going to throw off the emotional impact it'll have. Now, what we've looked at is quite a basic retopology. We could go deeper into the nose bit's a bit more advanced, but around the eye, obviously you've got stuff like the epicanthal fold, the tear duct and stuff. We've not bothered trying to really drill into those because you need to know how to turn edge flows on the surface before we start kind of understanding those kind of things. But yeah, the eye mask and the bandit mask are kind of like where we'll be looking at a character most of all. So I was talking to a third year yesterday, and we were looking at the character breakdowns for the new Final Fantasy remake, and we're looking at Tifa. And Tifa's a really good example of a character where you'll need to have this area of the face really, really well retopologized because it's got big eyes. It's a game which there's a lot of kind of like FMV cinematographic kind of camera work, so you're going to have like this portion of the body quite visible. And if there was a little bit of kind of like shiftiness going on in the eyes where things weren't moving, the topology wasn't going and flowing in the right direction, it'd just look atrocious. What's the next one? So we've got eye mask, bandit mask.
Muzzle mask.
Muzzle mask. Pen's dying. There you go. Muzzle. And that's a nice one because animationally, around the top of the nose there, because the edge flow is going obviously upwards like that, if we had a character where there's a lot of scrunch in the face, there's angry kind of stuff going on, this will just kind of literally collapse in and concertina in with all this information. When you're talking, there's a lot of downward movement with the mouth. So down at the bottom here, essentially, I like to think of the muzzle mask here, almost like you put your finger on someone's chin or cheeks there and push down. That's basically what's controlling that motion. What's the fourth one? Lip mask. Lip mask. And obviously, that's controlling the area around the lips and around the immediate area of the mouth. So same as the muzzle, it's just concentrated more inside the lips. So any sort of lip movement, so maybe the character doesn't have a very animated jaw, but it's got a very animated mouth, or maybe they're doing a little bit of tight lip talking kind of thing. You want that kind of animation control around there. So those are our four important ones. What's the two minor ones? Nose and face. Now I've not highlighted the face one on this one, but yeah, it's the nose and the face. If you don't have these in, it's not a terrible thing, because they're, for me, ways of controlling the shape. The facial one, if I put the wireframe on to see it, the face mask, which wraps around from the top of the head, going around the front of the ear, down. For me, this controls a nice shape of the head. It helps kind of have we're talking about containers, helps have the whole entire face as one kind of contained unit. But in this case, it also helps me shape the jaw of this character. Now this character's got quite a well-defined jaw, so it's nice to have that sharper shape there. If my character had more of a kind of a slopey face, maybe it's a fat deposit, maybe it's a creature, I might not necessarily have to worry about that. I might just go straight down into the neck. So this mask is why it's a minor mask. This mask isn't always needed. But for a character like this, for your standard character, it's very important. Same for the nose. If I've got a character which their nose is very kind of flat to the face, there's not really any kind of nasal fold, I don't really need that. But if I want my nose to be quite prominent on the face, I want a nice little indentation on the side there. That nose ring really helps me have that really nice defined line just on the corner of the nose. Can you think of another mask that isn't on the list?
Neck mask.
The neck one? Yeah, that's a simple one. So I'll put like a minor. The neck mask, yeah, that's a very, very simple one because obviously that's just going, that's not your neck. That's just going around the neck. Now this is a very basic one we're doing as well. Again, if you were doing something that had like a really defined sternocleidomastoid muscle, you might want to define that. One of the reference we're using has that little Adam's apple end shape to define that kind of balcony around the throat. So yeah, you're the next. Is there another one?
Ears.
The ear mask? Yeah. Generally this will be quite an important one because unless you've got a character which is like permanently wearing a helmet and you're only really seeing the front of the face, generally your character will always have ears. Be it big elf ears or standard human ears or holes like some creatures do. Is there another one?
Chin.
No. But I see where you're coming from. The one where you kind of go up and around. No. No, that's something else. But I get where you're coming from. It's a good thing.
Inner eye. Like
Nope. The what?
What?
Nope.
cranium.
Nope. It's used to make the cranium. It's the one thing that's coloured on the body we've not spoken about yet.
Skull cap.
Yes, the green one. Otherwise known as the, do you remember what we called it? The ski mask. Because it's like the ski strap going on the top of your head. So, ski. Oh, we'll call it the cranium mask. Cranium. Yeah, so this one. Why is this a good one? What's this doing? I don't remember what that one's doing.
Is it like top of the skull? Like a dome?
No, it goes into the eye, don't go over the top. But what's its function? Can I remember what its function is? I'm not going to show you the function because if I show you it'll be obvious, but can anyone remember its function? Why does this appear? And it was kind of what Declan was talking about before.
Is
If it comes out from the side of the head,
it separating the stars of the neck?
nope. It's getting rid of 4 edges on the head. Coming out of the eye, it's the part of the optimization stuff. I don't want to be sending loads of edges down to the back of my neck so that I've got like a really dense back of my neck. Because then I've got to deal with all that if that's going into a body. I've got to, where are all these edges going to go? So what this is doing is going round from the side of the eye, round the back of the head, and then just into itself. So it's killing them edges. Same thing's going on in the chin. Whoop. Same thing's going on underneath there. So we've got one coming out the bottom of the lip here. But I don't want to be sending tons into the throat, so I've got these 2 edges here going down, and then they make a right angle underneath the chin, then go back into themselves. So these, I call, we'll catch cranium out of this end, called control edges. Control loops, let's call them. Loops. And that's, in this case, it's the cranium or the ski. And then the chin. Is there another point where we do this that isn't actually on this? Actually, no, it's in there once, but it's not in there in a quite an obvious place. Is there another place where we have these control loops?
Is it the collar?
Nope. The philtrum, yeah. That's one of them. It's not, yeah. Because this one's a nice one, because it's going to give us shape, because obviously it's making that kind of philtrum shape. But it's also, you know, the nose, like the ear, can become quite dense with a lot of information. So if I'm sending a bunch of stuff down into my upper lip, I might have a really kind of like unevenly distributed poly count on my upper lip and my lower lip. So what that is doing is one, giving us shape, but also giving us that nice little killing of edges. Now we're only getting rid of 2 there, because it's only have 1 on either side. But yeah, the filter. Where could another one be?
Couldn't it be like the top of the...
Yes.
Like, I know it's not on this model, but it's
No.
on the other one.
It's on the reference. Do you remember what that area of the face is called? It's really glabella. I want to say it's spelled like that. Golbela, I think it's spelled like that. But yeah, so that's another point. You see that more mainly on characters who've got, generally, you know, in my experience, characters who've got big noses, or characters who've got quite a lot of information going on the eye ridges here. Because what it's going to do, one, it's going to send, if I've got a load of information in my nose, it's going to send it up, round into itself, and then back down. And then I'll have another loop somewhere in the nose where it'll go back round. So it's basically just a loop in the nose. But what it'll also do, like what it's doing in the filtrum, it can give me a nice line in the middle where I can basically push it in slightly or pull the two sides teeth out a little bit, and it'll give me a nice little crease. So I'll have, even in this lower resolution version, I'll have a nice little node there for a bit of information. So yeah, a few things to think about the edge loops. So, edge loops. We've got these, and these in purple are the connections. So the most important ones are the brightly coloured ones. You've got the bandit, the eye, the muzzle, the nose, and the lips. Oh, no, the nose, sorry. But then you've got these loops in between, which is just, it's basically the filler, but these areas in purple still need to be flowing in certain directions. So remembering that. So always thinking from the eye, so from the bottom of the eye, kind of in the inside half towards the tear duct, we want those coming down into the top of the lip. In the very inside of the tear duct is, we can send those into the nose, we can send those across the top of the eye, depending on if, again, think about that halfway point. On the outside, we're thinking more about where about the apicanthal fold is, the corner of the eye there, we're thinking more going into the cheek, going down. And you'll get these little star points. You'll see these a few points across the face. And sometimes people think they're hang-ons. They're not hang-ons, don't worry. These little five-sided points. There's one in the cheek, one in the corner of the eye, one in the very corner of the eye there, one there, and then one in the cheek at the bottom there. And then there's a couple dotted around. All these are, again, they're basically just like intersections where you've got multiple different edge flows running into each other. So for instance, you've got this one intersects with this one, is intersecting with this one. There you go. So you've got all these things inside, and that's all it is. But these will naturally appear, and there's always a good way of thinking that they should appear in certain positions, like in the cheek, in the bottom and the top of the eye, corner of the nose there, on the outside of the head there, basically the bottom of where the temple is. You'll get these things appearing. And you might get it appearing, you know, once you're solving shapes in like the cheek, you might get little three-sided ones. These might appear in other areas, depending on how you're dealing with the geometry. So, that is the head, and that is the most complex level of topology we've got to think about. When it comes to the body, again, it's a lot simpler. There's just a lot more of it. Because in the body, there's a lot more loops and shapes and stuff. But generally, the head is where the most difficult stuff is. Now, one thing you'll also notice as well is my head is smooth. Does anyone remember how I smooth heads? Or how you smooth geometry? Was that again? Nope.
Three.
We're in Maya. Different terminology.
Proxy smooth or live smooth?
I don't know.
Displays often.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah. So when you bring it in, your head's generally going to look like that, all faceted and stuff. This is a really important one near the end to be aware of, because if I was to take that into Substance Painter, it'll look faceted. And then when I bake my high-res into it, it's not going to work super well, because my normal map is going to try and smooth the surface, because it's a smooth surface, it's a high-res. But then my original geometry is still going to be kind of faceted. Yeah. So I always want to make sure that I'm smoothing. Nope, I had an edge, soft edge. Now, I did have proxy smooth turned on then, which I just pressed 3. That's my proxy smooth. But remember, this isn't what the end product's going to look like. This is just an approximation of if I was to smooth the surface one more time. So, like that. Now, just like what we did last year, we could go in and actually harden some edges to define some stuff. But generally with people, we don't have any hard edges on our body. We're quite goopy creatures. You know, there's not really any, there's creases and stuff which we could try and harden the edges for, but the best thing to do is rely on the normal map to create any of those harder surfaces. When you take a game model into an engine without any of its mapping and stuff, it'll often look kind of crap and soft because it doesn't need any hardening. Unless you're doing any sort of mechanical bits, then you can harden those edges. Okay. So, let's open up a new version of Maya. Let's go back into ZBrush. So, we're going to take this one here, Barry. We're going to take Barry into Maya to do some retopology. So what is the process of getting this guy ready for Maya?
Oh, yeah.
Decimation, yes. Now, can anyone think of one thing I'm going to have to be aware of with this compared to when our heads went into Maya? To do with the decimation. What is it? Yes. Generally, with our heads, we could go down to 20k and we still maintain quite a lot of information because we're only dealing with like one object. And relatively quite a small object, but with our body, if we go down to 20k, that's 20k distributed across a much broader surface, or 35k. So what I've got to do is just make sure that whatever resolution, whatever decimation I take this down to, still maintains the information that I need. Now this guy's not so bad because there's nothing really going on. But again, if you're doing something where you've got a lot of, creature features or whatever, you might need to kind of rethink some of this. Now one thing I do have to do is just get rid of the subdivisions because this guy, with the geometry, has subdivisions. And technically he is already retopologized, but we'll ignore this. And it's not very well retopologized, to be honest. It's too overly evenly distributed. So I'm just going to get rid of all that. So pretend this is a full sculpt. So delete lower. So there you go. And currently he is 252,000. So what I'm going to do is just see what happens if I take this to 20k. So plug in decimation master, go down to 20k, and it'll do the pre-processing and it'll do the decimation for myself. So that's not so bad. Now if I was going to do the head as well, I would have to pay attention to what's going on with the head. Am I losing too much information? Is the fold of my eye that I'm going to want to get that edge for, is that being maintained or is that being destroyed? So I've got to think about that. Let's have a look at the body. So generally, the body's looking pretty good. There's nothing particularly bad. This is okay. But even though I'm not going to be doing the face, I will hypothetically be thinking, well, this is a full body. I'm going to have to do a face. Let's do 35k. Better. So again, we look at the face. We see if the information's been destroyed and stuff. But I'm going to take this up to 75. Now, if you look at that menu, you can put your own number in. So if you say like, oh, 75 is too much, but 35 is not enough, maybe put 50k or something. You can manually put that in when you put your custom K points there. But for me, 75 is looking pretty good. I'm maintaining all the information that I might need, which is good. So now, all I need to do, oh, actually, no, I've made one mistake. Can anyone think of a massive mistake I've just made? I didn't duplicate it, yes. Big thing. I need to duplicate it because I need to have my hero model, my finished perfect model, and then I need to have a decimated subtool. Not insert, duplicate, thank you. Yeah, because subtools, if I import something, it's going to overwrite whatever subtool I'm on. But yeah, if I decimate that subtool, then I've lost all my information. So just make sure you duplicate. And maybe even rename that top one. So that top one I'm going to go to rename. I'm going to call it master. I'm going to this one. I'm going to rename this decim. It's at decimate. Cool. So now I can export this. Let's put it to the desktop. I'm going to call this male decim, so I know that this file is my decimated version. And just make sure that we are an OBJ. And then I can jump into Maya and just import. So what's one of the things I'm going to be looking for inside Maya now when I import this dude in? Size. Okay, so it's pretty big, which is good. Where is the grid? Yeah, but how big is that? Okay, yeah, it's nice. Can anyone remember what one of the benefits of working big is? Or the benefits of working big? Some from this side of the room. We've had a lot from the left. What about the right? Declan, Rosie, Emily, Joe. No.
Is it because your points will start like
Yes, exactly. The points will start merging together on a smaller surface, a lot more uncontrollably. Cool. So, making sure, number one, I've got object symmetry turned on. If this is too small, obviously you go back into ZBrush, scale up everything. So making sure that inside ZBrush that you're, make sure that this far right little icon is set to the 3. So that's going to do all the subtools, and then you scale it up. Cool. So yes, make sure we've got object symmetry turned on. It's at the top there. So drop that down, object X. And then with our mesh selected, we go up to this far right magnet to make it a live object. Now it's turned into a magnet. So where we're going to start off with, just like with the body, just like with the head, we're going to start off by putting the loops in and then joining stuff up. Because again, there's no point building an entire arm and then building a body. But if you put the loops in, it makes everything in between it really fast to kind of connect together. The loops are going to be around areas where you bend, essentially. So around your shoulder, around your elbow, around your wrist, around your pelvis, around your knee, your ankle, and around the joints of each finger. So everywhere where you bend and flex and stuff. There's also going to be loops set up to define features. So this is going to be really important when you're dealing with more shapelier characters, or if you want to define something on a body. And I've got an example of something that I'll bring up later on. To kind of, it's a bit of a kind of like an overdone version. It's an alien head with a load of different loops in it. But on this, I'll be wanting to define the pectorals, so I kind of want to have that balcony going underneath the pectorals. I want to define the clavicle a little bit. I want to define around the groin. Around the groin area is a bit interesting because I want to set up an edge loop, which is tracing that angle going across, where again, if you lift your leg up, you don't fold horizontally across your legs. That sounds painful. You kind of fold diagonally. So I want to make sure that I've got that kind of edge loop going across there, where I've got my essentially the division between my leg and my pelvis. And setting up stuff like, I quite like having, but if my knee's going to be present and visible, I quite like having bony knees, or like the edge loop for bony knees. So setting up a nice little shape which is going to help me define a knee. And if I've got the poly count, maybe defining stuff for the ankle, but that's all like dependent on what your poly count budget is. So, let's go do some stuff dead quick. So, go to my little tools there, go into quad draw, get out of the way, tool tip, get out of the way, thank you. I'm going to start off with the arms here, and I'm going to start off by doing the exact same thing. Top, bottom, middle, break that up in half, break that up in half. I'll do that for everything. This is also why it's good to sculpt with your arms out, because if you sculpt with your arms too far into your body, I can't get into the armpits. That makes it really difficult. So I want to be able to get into my pits. So top of my shoulder. If you've got well-defined deltoids, it's going to be much easier, but essentially I want to have a point where my deltoid meets my trapezius. And then underneath, in very base of my armpit, the very back of the shoulder, very front of the shoulder, and then break those in half. And then break those in half. The difference here than with my face, and I'll get to that in a sec when I've gone around so I don't lose count. The difference with when I do stuff with the body than when I do stuff with the face is that I'm not just going to make one loop at first. This first initial line I put in is the middle line between two polygroups. So I'm going to have a polygroup on the side here representing my arm and a polygroup on the side here representing my body. But with my face, because it's a much more smaller kind of contained area, I don't want to do that. But I only really need to make one loop first, because then I can just use the border extract to then pull the other side out. So let's make the inside of the body. So boop, boop. Now something will hopefully happen with this that will, when we're talking on Tuesday about the data management of Maya and how crap it is. Hopefully something will happen quite quick where we can start to solve that. I'm also going to change, I'm just going to bring something out of wireframe, live object. I'm going to give Sky a new material, just a Lambert. I'm going to make it a bit darker, because the white, for me, the grey, is a bit too bright and I'm losing that bright green on the surface. I'm going to make Sky a little bit darker so that green will stand out a bit more. There you go. Much nicer. Okay. bringing those in. Again, you can click and drag to quickly fill these in, but obviously you might get a little bit of a oopsie along the way. So around the top of the shoulder. Maybe first edge loop. And then I can bring, changing my extract to border, I can just bring this down a little bit. My first edge loop is done. And again, I'm in my mind's eye, in my memory, I'm going to be very aware of where the middle points are, the vertical middle and horizontal middle, because that's where I can start to define where things are going to go. Because we've still got edge loops and edge flow to worry about with this. So yeah, we'll make the torso first. We'll leave the arm, but we'll make the torso first. That's the easiest one. But we'll do the legs now. So same thing. So find the middle of the pelvis from the outside. That's about there. On this guy, it's going to be where like this little bump is just above the leg. And then you find the inside, on the inside of the leg. No, make sure that is on the other. Yep, there you go. And then we find the middle point. And then we find the middle point, which is going to be right there. Now what we're not going to do here as well is make some sort of well-defined edge flow for the bum because we won't need it. We're going to approach this like a base mesh where we don't really need super defined features. Just make sure this is a bit too far forward to bring this to the back. There we go. Middle, 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 middle. That brings up into the body. Now here on the inside, or again to the crease, got to be a bit careful that I'm not going to merge stuff together. One, it shouldn't merge too quickly because we're a bigger mesh, but two, I'm just going to have to be a bit more careful that we don't accidentally merge these two sides together, because I don't want this to become one solid, I don't want this to do this essentially. I don't want it to blend together like that. Because we've got information coming in from the middle of the body down, so we want that wrapping around. Because remember, we don't want the middle line, like the middle line going down the body should be uninterrupted. We don't want to bend that, curve that inwards or outwards. That should be a complete straight road. And again, we're going low res first. Okay. Boopity boop. And then I can just border extrude that into the leg. Right, so torso. Things to think about inside the torso. Number one, around the front, obviously, yeah, we've got them pectorals in this case, or you might have breasts, or you might have whatever, depending on your subject. So I've got to, again, look at, just like I did with my last one, I've got to look at, is there any edge flow? Is there any edges in my shoulders there where I can start to send that information? So I can see right there, nope, that's on the wrong, there you go. I can see right there, I've got an edge which is pretty much pointing in the right direction. So what I can do is just bring that down. Again, making those big journeys. I know that I want it to go down to the corner of the pectoral and make a turn. So I'm going to bring it down to that turn, grab a seat.
So sorry, mate.
It's alright, grab a seat. And then it turns inwards. There you go. Like that. Because then I'm dictating that flow right away. Now here's where I can make a decision as well. Depending on your subject, if you're doing some sort of like super shredded person, which has got like that weird indentation in the solar plexus, I might want to then turn that up inside. So I've got a bit of information to have like a bit of a crease. In this case, what I'm going to do is, for now, just make the decision to close this loop in the middle. Like that. But leaving an edge there, because this I'm calling like the end of my pectoral when it goes to solar plexus. The edge in the middle is my actual solar plexus. And then I can just take that up. And this will start to become, this will start to go into clavicle. Like that. So boom, straight away. Leave that in there. Round the back, what have I got? Again, if you want to really define the trapezius muscles or the lat muscles, anything like that. So I'm going to pretend there's a really nice lat muscle shape going down in this direction. It's pretty much the same thing we've just done with the pectoral, but so I'm feeling that this is going to go down here into the back. So Just drag that down to where that would be, into the middle, and then this is where you get the cavity of the spine. Badoosh. So we're doing the exact same from the front and from the back, but obviously the shape's a little bit different. And then here I can just start to drag this up to form the spine, like that. Maybe just give it a single one there, and put a single one there. So it's really cool. So from here as well, I can start to think about how to close this area in the groin. So we're going for a base mesh thing here. I've not got anything that I need to define. I've not got any particularly well-defined abdominals I need to over-define. I will be putting a belly button, even though he's not got one on the mesh here. I will put one in, but I've got nothing else to really define. So here is where I wish I could draw on the board. Here's where I've got to think about setting up a loop, which is at least going to trace the shape of the abdominals, but I don't have to have like multiple loops on the inside to have like super well-defined stuff. What I'm going to do is bring down, I'll start to set up an edge loop, which is essentially wrapping around just above the groin, just below, I don't know, the stomach there. I'm going to set up a loop, which is going to essentially come down here, round, and then up. So it'll be going that, well, it'll be heading in that direction. It might go into the pectorals, it might bend round into the armpits. We're going to make decisions first. And then I can close this shape off fast, and then start to close this shape off. And then I'm going to start closing off the sides of the body there. Because then what we've got is just basically like essentially the cheeks of the body, where we've got these flat open areas that we've not really got that much oblique information happening. You know, we don't have to do any weird topology for that. So, and again, I'm thinking ahead all the time. I'm trying to think like, okay, where is that edge flow going to go? If I'm going to send it in this direction, is it going to head into any kind of problems? And again, it's having that confidence of just being like, okay, I'm going to start an edge flow. Okay, I'm going to start an edge flow. Like that. It's going to come round like that. Again, we're keeping it really low res for now. Why won't you? Why won't you? Oh, auto weld turned off. Why? There you go. So does that cause any issues anywhere else? No. Cool. So set of that loop right there. Again, we're working low res, so I'm kind of not worried about this area just yet. And then what I was thinking about why I've come out of this area here is I'm thinking about the muscles, and the obliques pretty much end here. So I want this interior edge. So this on the left is the abdominals, here on the right is the obliques. So send that up there. Just thin that out a little bit more, because then that's tracing that little pubis muscle area there just above the groin. And then that's going to go somewhere. Just to be a little bit of a completionist. Let's just fill this area in. Like that. Oops. So I'm just doing a basic fill in there for later on. But this is looking like the center of my body for now. So I could make the decision to basically say, okay, if this is the center of my body, I'm going to send that up there. But what can anyone see a possible issue with me just deciding that this loop here, I keep messing up, there you go. This loop here is my center. Can anyone see a future problem with what I've just done?
It's like killed itself or whatever
No,
the phrase was now.
no, it's continuing there.
Could it ruin the separation between the pectorals and the lower body?
No.
Is it because there's there's only there's not enough of two sides to go through the groin?
Exactly, yes. So I'm thinking more above here than down in my groin area. Weird sentence. So yeah, like I might hit an issue later on where I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's really good, but I need to put more information down here. So if I start adding edges in there, it's going up here. And then what's going to happen? So I keep those separate for now. Because Because yeah, I'll probably want just like one more intersection in there, but I don't necessarily know 100% yet. Cool. So then I can set up my legs and armpits here. So I've got to find my middle point. So this is my middle point of my hip, and this is the middle point of my underarm. So I can pretty much decide that, yeah, this edge is going to go up to here, and this edge is going to go down to there. Because again, there's nothing really interrupting. We've got no like third set of arms or second set of arms underneath there. Just a straight line down, dead easy to fix. And then I can put a single edge in the middle, and then a single edge above there, just so it fits in with the body. And already I'm kind of seeing loops that can happen, like coming in, maybe wrapping around underneath here and wrapping up into there, coming across here, across, and then this will maybe come down. And just to have fun with the back as well, I'm going to say that I want to have a crease just at the base where you've got the bottom of the trapezius above the crease. Oh, sorry, just the bottom of the lats above the crease. So I'm going to do something similar to this, but at the back. So let me just bring this down. I'm going to bring it to about there. And I'm going to just set this up in space. So I'm not even going to connect it to anything. So boom, 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 boom. This is going to come across like that. Now the reason I'm setting this up without connecting to anything because I don't really know where I'm going to send it to yet. So by letting it float in its own destination, I can just solve that later on. And I definitely do want to just start a little bit of information there so I can continue that for now. So we set up these landmarks ahead of time, and it looks a little bit like a really weird 70s sci-fi movie spacesuit for the time being. But at this point, we've set up all the main edge loops. We've obviously set up the arms and the legs. Those are two of the most important ones. We're making sure that the loop is actually in the direction of the crease, so it's not going in some weird place that if we were to bend up our arm, the shoulder would be creasing in a weird place. We're going from the back of the deltoid, because that's where the crease happens, round under the arm. Same thing for the legs. We're thinking about where that crease is, that diagonal fold. And then we're following things, any sort of features, so like pectorals or any sort of back muscles and stuff. So at this point, I can decide, right, I'm going to just start filling in this space. So, and again, I'm not just adding like edges in willy-nilly. I'm thinking, for the most point, just adding in this one in the middle, so having this equal, keeping it even all the time. Keeping this closed. Okay, let's see if we can see where we can connect some of these edges together. So I think these two, like this one and this one, can connect. But I want a bit more information down here, so what I'm going to do is add one in there, which means I'm going to have to add one up there, because that's going to flow on. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. Just distribute this a little bit. Okay, so let's have a look around the side. Again, we're talking about them loops coming round, so around here I'm seeing this one wrapping around underneath here, so I want to fill that one in, which means I'm going to have to fill that one in, and that's wrapping around. Now this, a little bit like the eye, around the side of the eye and the cheeks, I'm not necessarily seeing this one wrapping around like this, because what's going to happen, one thing that can happen with these is you create spirals. You can create like, there's already a loop formed at the back there, but if I start carrying this round, it's then going to go round again and want to come, so you end up having these loops, which you'll all make, and I make them from time to time, because you forget, sometimes you forget what's going on at the front. So I want this one to kind of come across there, like that. So I've got a little bit more kind of mass there, and then these can literally just come across. Keep it nice and simple, these can just come across the back. Bang. So I can just pull this one out. Oh. And this one can pull out. And then this one can pull out. Now I'm omitting a neck for now because I'm going to pretend that we've got a neck here. But while I'm also doing this, if I've got a neck made, I've got to think about how many edges are coming out from my neck. So if I've got, say, 32 edges coming out the bottom of my neck, I've got to make sure that I'll have 32 edges wrapping around the base of my neck, the base of my top of my body. There you go. So then I can just start to, again, find these edges which link up with each other. And then add what I need, and then fill those in. Now this, because it's my trapeze, it's going to be wrapping around. I'm going to bring some of these so they come around in the same shape. So, oh. So we whip it up and up and up like that. And then go to center line there. Across there. That's going across. No, that's going across there. Give me this weird shape. So you sometimes end up with this little house shape. Which I'm going to think about, okay, how am I going to deal with this? Because I've got some weird shapes, so I might have to go back and fix some stuff. So if you end up having this, and this looks really nice so far, I'm actually liking this flow. But obviously we've got the little triangle left, so one way I can fix that is taking the interior edge, so nothing going on the outside, on the inside. If I just put an edge across there, I'm cutting one edge in half, which makes that 3 into a 4. Like that. But then I've got to stand back and think, okay, what is happening with that area? Am I getting a weird edge flow, or is that actually making sense? That's actually making some nice sense, you know. All it's doing is bringing edges from the back upwards and round into itself. So it's creating kind of a killing edge. So let's smooth it off a little bit. Get some regulation. It's looking nice. There's some points I want to keep close together, so I don't want to lose the crease of the spine, so I'm not going to overly smooth this area. I do want that opposite edge to be maintained. Let's come here and start bringing stuff into the base of the spine. So what's going to happen here? Okay, so this is going to come across here. This is going to come across here. And I'm going to start bringing these down. Moving this off a little bit. This is going to start coming across the back into itself, which means there I've set up another one of those little star shapes, which you set up there. And then that's what I've got one piece going across there, and then one piece going across there. So now I'm setting up the loops going just basically horizontally across the body. So I'm gonna just bring one across there. Right like that. So now I can resolve what's going to go on with this, and I'm feeling like I actually want this to go up. That. So again, that's why I didn't connect it straight away, because I wasn't sure where this loop was going, but now I know it's going to go up like that, which will allow me to have a nice little loop there. So I should have said that. I was looking where this was going into. So I found that little connecting edge, which turned into a loop, and then from here I can just fill in those areas. I've got a little house appearing here, so I can decide what to do with that. Let's connect these up first, because then I've got this house appearing here, okay? So just like within the face, when you start connecting stuff up, some of these problems, these little puzzles will appear. And then I can kind of on this loop to be going round in this direction. So let's set that up ahead of time. So let's get rid of that. Let's weld you into there. Okay. Now this is creating a little bit of weird geometry, but it's okay for now. This can do this, and I can do that, close that, put that, and the old smooth on, smooth. Around the back. Let's put another edge down there, because where's this going? Okay, so I've got definitely this is going into the crease. So where's happening here, or what's happening here? Okay, so and again, I do find it easier to talk this out loud. I do find it helps me. Okay. we'll leave that for now. I'm not getting lost in there. Right, just fix up the front. So we did a lot of work around the back, so our back's looking nice and dense. Not too dense though, if you notice. It's, you know, nowhere near as dense as the head might be, because we don't really need that much information in this bit. So we can do the same thing on the body here. So if you complete the front of the chest first, try and mimic the kind of thinking you're doing at the back. But now that I've done my back, I'm thinking, okay, I've got these edges running through. So, okay, this is coming around pretty horizontal. So I'll try and have that coming out horizontal. Like that. Like this. Essentially, I think all I really need to do for this is just connect, because this edge here looks like it'll be able to go up to this one. So how many have I got? I've got 3 edges and I've got 2 at the front. So I just do a really quick messy fix up there. Hit that with a bunch of smooth. Yeah, there you go. That's enough information. Now I was talking about putting a belly button in there before. So I want to put a nice bit of information. I want to basically make a loop in the middle of this surface, but I can either break out from Quadra and make it go into like the you know, the old modeling tools, or I can actually make it right here, right now. A good position. Can anyone think of, in your mind's eye, think of where your belly button is, and then think about a measuring device? Anyone kind of like fathom that?
Is it like between the pelvis edge and the lower rib?
Not really, no. There's another point in your body that I often use that helps me kind of get my belly button in place.
Oh, elbow.
Elbow, yeah. So if you stand up, your elbow is slightly above where your belly button is. So if I can like mind's eye, it's going to be about here. Now pop quiz, why is the Sistine Chapel David and God wrong? So we've all seen David and God where it's kind of like that. Okay. Why is it wrong?
Because the belly button's wrong.
Why is the belly button wrong?
Because it doesn't exist.
The belly buttons? The belly buttons do exist. No.
Is it an innie, but the real guy's belly button wasn't?
No. Adam was not born of woman.
Oh,
No umbilical cord.
so you shouldn't have.
He shouldn't have one.
Yeah, it's not real.
Yeah. Well, no, he's not real. But that's like a conversation for another class. So all I've done there is basically delete those 4 faces where I want it to be, set my extraction, my extend to border, and literally just pull it in a little bit to make that loop. Where have we seen this shape before?
Oh, it's the breaking edges.
Nope. I'm talking old school. I'm talking first year stuff.
Oh, God.
Think of the very first class. Top of the crate. So literally all I've done, I've literally just done the top of the crate. I've just extruded it inwards. These shapes are everywhere.
Great.
Yeah,
Cool.
top of the crate. That's the frame of the crate. Now one thing we don't have here, because it's not on the actual sculpt, is an actual recess. But I've got the geometry there for it, if I need to, if I want to add it in there later on. Okay, so set up the top of the pectorals now. So with this, okay, I'm going to send, whoops, a daisy. I'm going to bring this edge across here. Start building up some of these loops. So this is going to come across. That's going to come up. We're going to be coming across like this, wrapping round. And then we can probably do that. So now that's going to go up and around, kind of following that shape of the pectoral. It's going to go across like this. This can probably just connect like that. This can connect like that. So again, it's much easier to sort this out now because of those initial loops. This one here is going to come up, which means I can do that. This one here is going to come up, which means I can do that and then that. So I've got a triangle. Now I don't want to do one of these in the front of the chest. So I've got to go back and think. How can I solve that actually? How can I solve that? There's quite an easy way of solving it, but it's kind of, your brain has to go back into like Maya modeling territory to think about it. Though we won't be using those tools, the way of thinking about it is very Maya modeling. Can anyone kind of fathom this problem?
Without adding more lines.
Without adding that line going across the
Could you add it somewhere else?
maybe.
Towards it. The one that goes into the arm ends.
What if you take out that loop from it?
Which one?
Then 3 above it and just move the connection over one.
Point out. Is your pointer device?
Then 3 and then move that to here and that to here and that to there.
You could do that, but that's going to make the chest area quite low res because you're getting rid of a loop. We're actually going to be adding in a loop for this. So-
Put the
I
line
think you just,
up to the goal.
no, you go.
Put the line up to the collar.
No. If anything, it's going to cross the chest. If I make this edge into 2 edges, which makes this vertex into 2 vertexes, that flow will go up and across like that. See what I mean? So, it means we have to delete some stuff, okay? So in fact, if I just do that instead, so all I've done is I've taken that triangle, I've turned it into a quad. But I've split the vertex, which is basically pointing in the direction where I want to go. It's like it's kind of like advanced intermediate modeling, mind's eye puzzle solving. Then if I hit that with a bit of smooth, there you go, solved. The reason I didn't want to send it up into the neck is because that's sending more information upwards. And we always want to send, like, if we want to kill edges or we want to kind of like control our edges, it's always best to send it into the middle of the body. Anything going up or down away from the extremities or towards important areas sometimes risks adding too much information. Because then it's easy to solve the rest of it. Like that. Now with this as well, we've got a broader back, well a more low res back. Because we have got some of these loops which are going into themselves, if we need to add more, we just add it in. Because where's that going? Into itself. Same thing for the back here. If we need to add another one in there, we just add another one in. Or that one. Because again, it's going into itself. And which means I can just solve this area at the bottom. So pulling this round, down. Now this, again, I have to be a bit more careful because it's start to merge into itself here, and I don't want that to happen. So set up the loops. Okay, so I've got 4 there, and I've got 4 there, which means on the inside, I just need to start to connect these up carefully. I think I will actually add 2 more divisions on the inside of the leg, just to kind of get that form fit in. If I put a center line in the middle, to join those. And that. There. Okay. Come on, there we go. The frustration. This is where Retopo can get very frustrating when you're staring at a dude's junk, trying to make edges work. Oh, for the love of shit. Right. Oh my god. I'm gonna flip a lid in a second. Go back and delete these. I've done that wrong a bit. Not a triangle there, no one's going to see it. Oh my god, right, we almost, oh my god. This is where I, like at the end of when you do know the awkward bits, that's where I start to lose my shit a little bit. It is well annoying. Boom, there you go, fucking finally. So you've got a cheeky little triangle somewhere, that's fine, so no one's going to be staring there. Remember, triangles are fine in some areas, sometimes you might need to use them. Like in the inside of the ear, in that case on the inside of the crease there, just to solve an issue. But if it's on the surface, that's on the broad surface of an area, you want to stay away from it. So, that's the torso. It's taking a little bit of time to do that, it just takes a bit of time. But right there, we've got a pretty damn good retopology. The same thing happens for the arms and legs. Though, with the hands and the feet, again, that's where it gets a little bit difficult. So, just like with Tuesday, we're going to take 10 minutes to get away from the darkness, have a stretch, wake up a bit, and then we'll come back. I'm going to have the arms done, because it's pissy to do the arms, but then we're going to look at doing the hands, because the hands, if we've got, say, loads of edges coming in from the arm, the last thing you want to do is have all these edges dealing with the hand, so we've got to do some stuff in the hand, which is annoying. So we'll stop this.